Drake sat in the arena master's personal office, reading through financial and logistical paperwork. A Clawville doctor who was previously under indenture was disinfecting and bandaging the puncture in Drake's hand. The boy set a guard rotation schedule down and cracked his neck before turning to watch as the doctor pulled the bandage's knot tight. Drake inspected the doctor's handiwork and nodded, letting the man leave. Drake just sighed as he stood, feeling the stitches running across his face and grinning slightly. The odds were against him, even more so after he let the rest of the newly freed slaves return to their homes. Drake walked slowly through the halls of the now empty arena, the smell of blood lingering in the air. He had been lucky that the place didn't have any events scheduled for after his revolt, but he had come across something worrying in the arena master's desk. They'd been receiving a massive number of items with redacted names for an experiment. The project's name wasn't easily translatable, but it was a reference to a brutal Geknosian myth about some kind of mechanical beast. The key card in his hand had been attached to the document. He hoped it was some kind of key. Following the small plaques that indicated the directions of various facilities, Drake felt out of place. Geknosions on average stood head and shoulders above a normal human. The fact that he had to step back to read some of the plaques was evidence of this. The plain wooden walls gave way to a sterile, white, durasteel corridor after Drake took a turn. The boy froze, glaring at the large drop-down door at the end of the hall. But steeling his nerves, he marched forward and inserted the keycard into the reader. The door shook and then slid upwards with a clatter as the lights in the room turned on. Drake felt his mind go numb as he saw what the experiment was. Corpses in various stages of cybernetic augmentation adorned what looked like autopsy tables, organs spilling from skin that had been peeled and stretched open. Arms, legs, even a severed head were in clear vessels that were plugged into a machine on the far wall. But what had stopped Drake in his tracks was the remains of a human that had been strapped to an odd, vertical slab. A vaguely head-shaped lump of machinery was grafted to the neck. Both arms had been replaced with cybernetics that seemed to have fused with the skin. Metal and cybernetics replaced everything from the human's liver down. The worst part? The machine and man combination slowly lifted their machine, mechanical jaw opening wide. "Please." The thing's voice was pitiful, weak, begging. "Please. It hurts." Drake stepped forward, mind numb, body burning with rage, not at the poor person before him, but the twisted minds that had inflicted his torture. "Please. I can't see." Drake gently touched the thing's metal cheek, achieving no reaction. Drake gently drew the thing into a hug, pressing his chest against what was left of theirs as he grabbed the cable leading into the head. The voice dropped to a whisper. "Please, kill me." Drake didn't respond as he ripped the cable from the thing's head, feeling it go limp. Drake turned to leave, unable to look anymore, but he stopped once more, feeling his sanity about to shatter. The head inside of the clear vessels was staring at him with an expression he could only describe as confused horror. Drake felt numb as he watched the head blink twice, and then tried to look down, but only the eyes moved. Drake slowly shuffled over to the vessel, something roaring in his ears as he pressed a hand against the glass. The person's head inside screamed silently, mouth falling slackly open. "I'll find who did this to you," Drake mumbled, drawing the lace pistol he'd stolen from his cell guards. "And I'll make them suffer. I'll make them all suffer as you have." Drake pressed the emitter against the glass, closed his eyes, and turned his head before pressing the trigger stud. His vision blurred as rage, grief, and revulsion warred inside of him. But then they were all overwhelmed by one emotion, one that burned hotter than the center of a sun. A hatred that would bring empires to their knees and put tyrants to the sword.